Hello, welcome to my next video about the Dark Eye core rules. I'm going through the list of advantages and disadvantages, and I have to tell you, and you will probably like to hear this, I've changed my mind. I said I'm going to flip through here and give only a few examples. No, I'm going through the list in detail. I'm tell you something about every advantage and disadvantage that is in the game. But I'm not going to tell you the exact mechanics, what this really does, and sometimes I might maybe not so precise and correct in what I'm telling. But in general, I will explain you what it does roughly, the advantage or disadvantage. So let's start with the first advantage. The first one says you are noble, which has no really hard rules associated. It's just people, will treat you more favorably, whatever, because you're noble, or they may hate you because you're noble. That depends, but in general, it's good to be noble, and I think there is nothing. It doesn't make you richer or something. You just have a title, and people will treat you better. Next thing is age resistance. You just don't age after a certain age. For humans, that is around 25 or 30 or something like that. But it would probably not be a problem to define a different age if you would like that. The star up here tells you that this is something you cannot just choose. This is associated to certain races or to certain species or to certain professions. For example, as an witch, you can take this because that is specifically mentioned in the description of a witch, because a witch can be born from an egg and then she has age resistance. So next is you smell good. This gives you a bonus when you are interacting with people. This is like an Begabung is you are gifted or something. This gives you an advantage when using certain skills, or you can choose this for talent or something. I'm not quite sure right now. Both-handed. You can fight with both hands equally well. This does not mean that you are able to fight in a both-handed fighting style. Not mean that you can attack 2 times in one combat round. It just means if you have to use your wrong hand, you don't get any negative modifiers on fighting with your wrong hand, which you would usually get. Next is dark sight or night vision or something like that. It's also for elves or for dwarves, and orcs also have it. You can't choose this for humans, but you also could if you said, oh, my grandfather was an elf, then if it's okay, you could choose it too. There was an example in the old rules, I think. Next is Eisenaffine Aura. This basically means you can cast spells more easily, or you're less affected by, when you cast spells, you're less affected by iron, because the rules are when you're wearing too much iron, it interferes with your ability to cast spells. This is also a way how you can keep a spellcaster prison that would otherwise just teleport out of the prison or use his magic to free himself. You just put these people in prison, and there's also a certain stone that prevents spellcasting, and you put these people in iron, and that's a way to keep an spellcaster captured. Next thing is you have a sense for distances. You can just measure distances intuitively. Next is flink, which means nimble. You are quicker, faster than normal people. Fuchsin is fox sense. This is named after the holy animal of the god of thieves, because this ability allows you to sense traps and stuff like that. Next is you're a born speaker. You're better with words than other people, and it gives you advantages when in certain talents when you're talking to people. You are a priest. I don't know how to translate geweiht. You are a priest, which means you have been educated as a priest, and you are able to hold carnal energy. God provided you with carnal energy. That is an advantage you could also take later in game, because at one point you could hear the call of the god and you would become a priest. This is gift resistance, which means poison resistance. Makes you more resistant to all kinds of poisons. Luck gives you more fate points. Gut aussehend means you're good looking. Gives you bonuses in certain when interacting with other people. If they can see that you're good looking, because when you're interacting with an orc, good looking might get you nowhere. Unless you're an orc. So this is also something. Herausragende Fertigkeit is extraordinary skill. Some of your skills, spells, liturgies, talents are better than other people's. You just are better at using them. In a different way, I explained something like that already in another ability, another advantage. This works a bit different. The mechanic is different. This is basically the same for the skills, for combat techniques. It's extraordinary combat technique. Makes you better using that combat technique. This is extraordinary sense. This can be for hearing, touching, smelling, tasting, smelling and tasting together, and hearing, touching, smelling, and sight. They are simply better than for the average human. Heat resistance makes you less affected by heat, for example in the desert or when you're close to fire or something. Hohe Astralkraft means you have simply more astral energy, which allows you to cast more spells. The same for carnal energy, which allows you to cast more liturgies as a priest, and the same for hit points. You have simply more hit points. And this is you have more resistance against influence of the mind. This is you have more resistance against influence of the body or damage or pain or stuff like that, or poison and illnesses and such. This specifically is like more resistance against, no, this is immunity. Immunity against a certain poison. You're completely immune. The same for an illness. You're immune for a certain disease. You're immune against a certain disease. This means you're cold resistant. So if you're in the hind horse or something, you take less damage from cold. Or if someone casts a cold spell on you or something. That might help you. I'm not quite sure. This is a resistance against diseases. This was immunity against a certain disease. One, you buy this, I'm immune against this disease. And this is a resistance against all diseases. And up here, this was a resistance against diseases, against anything that has to do with your body. Diseases, poisons, pain, stuff like that. They are different. And they probably have a different cost associated, because this is more general and this is more specific. Magical attunement. I think magical attunement is a good translation. It means you can cast spells better under certain circumstances. For example, in the night, on the ocean, in the mountains, in the forest, something like that. It cannot be general, very general, like a day or when I'm standing on the earth. Mystica. You are a mystic, and the mystic somehow lets you better deal with the trance you get into when you are a priest and you use a lot of liturgies. If you set a lot of karmal energy, a lot of divine energy free, it gets you in a state of trance, and that gives you a negative modifier on everything, and this lets you deal with this better. This is you don't need to sleep, you're not sleeper, which you have to sleep, but you can ignore sleeping, or you can stay awake as long as you want or for an extended period of time, but after this period of time you have to sleep, and you have to make up for the sleep. So if you stay awake for a complete week, you will sleep 7 times for every day, 6 or 8 hours in a row. Pragmatica. This is also something that helps you as a priest to deal with this trance state you're getting into. This is rich. You're rich. You simply have more silver coins at the start of the game. You can buy more equipment during character creation, and all the money you don't spend you can just keep, and you start your first adventure with more money. Next is sense of direction. I think you simply know where north is. Schlangenmensch. This means you are very, very flexible. You are like someone from the fair or something. You can bend your limbs, your body incredibly. You are hard to influence by spells. This protects you from spells, but only from certain ones. Some that want to transform your body, some that want to influence your mind, and stuff like that. You're still influenced by, like, if someone shoots you a fireball, then you just burn as everybody else. But influencing spells, influence of the body, physical influence, mind influence, you are more resistant, and you're also more resistant to what means more resistance. You're resistant to healing spells. It's more difficult to cast a healing spell on you, because that's also a spell that modifies your body. Next is you're social adaptable or something like that. You are simply get along with people very well, and this gives you bonus in interacting with people. Of course, depends on who you interact with, but in general you are more effective in dealing with people, at least of your own kind. What's that? You're someone who is easily overlooked. People don't notice you that often, which means if you try to go into hiding, it is an advantage. People will just not remember you if they pass you on the street or something. This is improved regeneration for astral energy, which the spellcasters use, for karmal energy, which the priest use, and for your hit points. And this is a hidden aura, which means it is more difficult to notice if you are a spellcaster. Usually there are spells that allow you to see if there is magic energy somewhere. And a spell cast on a spellcaster, this reveals that the body holds astral energy. And in case of hidden aura, this is way more difficult to see. You are trust-inducing. People trust you simply, and when you interact with them, it gives you certain advantages. You are very gifted with a certain weapon. Certain kind of weapon gives you bonus when you're fighting with that weapon. Makes you better in that weapon. You have a nice singing voice. It sounds just better. You get a bonus when you're singing. You are tough. You're simply tough, and you can withstand pain more easily. Usually when you're in pain, that is one of the conditions you can be in, and you automatically get into a pain condition when you lose hit points. And this lets you ignore part of this pain. You are a spellcaster. This has to be this is something you cannot buy later in game. You have to be a spellcaster from the beginning. If you want to be a priest, this is something you can, if your game master is okay with it, you can buy it later on. It's more problem becoming a priest, how to explain that you all of a sudden are a priest. For spellcaster, because for priest this works because the god gives you the karmal energy at one point, can do that at any point. Spellcaster has to be born with the ability to hold astral energy in his body, and it also means you are educated. If you have this ability, it means you are educated as a spellcaster. You have also to buy a special ability that's called a tradition, which means you are an educated spellcaster in that tradition. So if you want to be a spellcaster, remember you also have to buy a tradition, not only what is given here as the cost to become a spellcaster. And of course then you have to pay for spells and stuff. You have a sense of time. You simply know how late it is, even if you don't see the sun and you're on the earth or something. Two voice singing. I don't know if that's a good translation. You can simply sing with two voices at once. This is something that only elves can take, and they need it for certain rituals, which are songs they sing. They have certain magical songs, and I think you can only use these songs when you have the ability to sing with two voices. Could be wrong, but I think. Next and last advantage is Dwarf Nose. Dwarf Nose lets you simply sense if there's something hollow behind a wall. You don't necessarily know what it is or how big it is or something, and you surely don't know how to open it. You would sense behind this wall there is a room or something. There is something. There could be a door through this, and maybe you even see the door when you look at the wall carefully, but you don't know how to open it. You just sense there is something hollow behind this wall. There is a room or something small, or something hidden. So that's the advantages. If you have questions, ask. I'm not going to really explain the mechanics of the advantages, but if you have in general questions, then I can answer them. For now, that's it. The video about the advantages. The next will be about the disadvantages in equal detail. So, bye.